Hey there, it's Emily from OurLittleSliceOfHeaven.com, and today I want to talk to you about college prep science and the virtual science labs that Greg Landry offers. So when I think of a science lab, I think of complicated instructions, equipment that I probably don't have at home, and a giant mess. So today I'm going to share with you the reasons that homeschoolers should use College Prep Science's virtual labs for their homeschool science class. Greg's a former college professor and homeschool dad, and he knows what he's doing when it comes to science. And I don't. His lectures are down to earth, they're very easy to follow, and they're in such a conversational manner that I really feel like he's sitting at the kitchen table teaching my children. The virtual science lab is filled with all sorts of science equipment that the students need to complete their labs. These are things that I would definitely not have on hand as a homeschool mom. So I don't have to worry about adding all that lab equipment to my Amazon cart. The virtual science labs will prepare your students for college level lecture classes. Greg gives amazing lectures in a live format, or if you're on the self-paced version, you can always go back and watch the recordings. Your students will learn how to take very detailed notes with a method that Greg has developed that makes it so easy for students to take notes, to go back, review what they've learned, and retrieve that information later on. Greg helps students develop a research mindset. He really encourages students to ask questions and be inquisitive, which is awesome. I want my kids to have well laid out and easy to follow instructions when it comes to doing science experiments, and that's exactly what you'll find inside the virtual science labs. We all know that science experiments can get a little bit messy, so one of the great things about the virtual science labs is that all of that mess and stress is contained inside the computer. There's no mess to clean up, no experiments to go wrong, and no stress for parents watching the experiments on the kitchen table. With College Prep Science's virtual science labs, there's no textbooks to buy, there's no supplies to gather. You simply enroll your student, print out the notes, and you're ready to go. I want to give you a quick sneak peek into the virtual science lab because it really is amazing. It's probably one of the coolest interactive science tools that I've seen for homeschoolers. So this is the virtual science lab, and one of my favorite parts is that you actually have to flip the light switch to turn the light on in the lab. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but this is the lab. Over here on this sidebar, it includes all of the science experiments that your student will be conducting inside of the lab. When you click on each experiment, it's going to give you step-by-step instructions on what they need to do to complete that lab. When they finish that lab, they're going to write a very detailed lab report. Now, that lab report is probably the meat and potatoes of this entire course because it really helps the student take the information and the data that they've retrieved from their lab, from completing the lab, and reason with and make sense of that data, come up with conclusions about the different topics that they're learning about. They chart, they graph, they demonstrate what they've learned in the lab, and then they can share that information with friends and family, which is really cool. So in the lab, there's different areas. You can see here they're all numbered. You have all of the tools that you need. If you click down here in the drawers, it'll actually open up and tell you all of the different pieces of equipment that you can use in the lab. Let's see. Let's bring something out. So I'm not really sure what you use a whistle for, which lab it's for, but that's how you drag an item out into the lab. And then when you open that, this is actually going to start you into the specific lab for that item. So you can see it gives you all sorts of data. There's different variables that you can control when you're conducting your experiment. So this is all interactive. It's really fun to interact with and to complete the labs inside of this. My kids were really interested in just kind of clicking around and seeing what there was before we actually dove into completing some of the labs.
If you're looking for a science class for your upper elementary, middle, or high schooler, I highly encourage you to check out College Prep Science.